Warning: the following podcast features views and opinions that are likely to trigger the extreme fanboys and fangirls who disagree with them. Listener discretion is advised.
Welcome to Hot Takes with Billy Biz, the show with absolutely no direction. Just kidding, it's all in the title. The show is now on iTunes, Spotify, every weird podcast thing that you guys have thrown at me. Is it on Overcloud Watchcast? Probably. Now it's everywhere. I beg of you, with all of my heart and soul, what little is left of it, please rate and review the show, not because I need the accolades, but because if iTunes shows that you guys like it, they'll put it higher in the search. And there's just something morally wrong about searching for Billy Business, and my name is not the first thing that pops up. So please do that. I'm still looking at doing a giveaway for digital codes for the Batman the Animated Series, the entire series in HD. So that'll be coming on my Twitter. Be looking out for that. So today I'm talking about 1993's The Nightmare Before Christmas. 1993's Tim Burton's The Nightmare Before Christmas, with comedian SJ Regular, host of Tights and Fights, a lot of other you do. I just asked you not to cuss and then I did it.
Suck it.
Yep. Danielle Radford.
Hi, thanks so much for having me. I'm so happy to be here.
Let's talk about this movie now. Disclaimer, this is not movie fights. This is not a debate show in the sense that we are trying to win points here. We're really doing just a deep dive discussion because a lot of people love this movie and I do not. But here's some context about The Nightmare Before Christmas. So once upon a time, I didn't realize this. I don't know my Tim Burton mythology. I don't even want to call it history with him.
Yeah,
it's mythology. Yeah, he's a weird creature.
The legend of Timothy Burton.
But young Timothy Burton, once worked for Disney. And he had the idea for Nightmare Before Christmas. The production was stalled. They were going to make it like a made-for-TV kind of 30-minute movie, but they just thought it was too weird. And so they actually ended up firing Tim Burton because he was just a little too Tim Burton for Disney.
Fair.
Which is weird because I feel like this would have been around the time of like the Black Cauldron and stuff, which is like very Burton,
right?
But who knows? So he went off to have no career. Just kidding. He went off to do Pee-wee's Big Adventure, Beetlejuice, Edward Scissorhands, Batman. This guy takes off.
So many stripes.
So many. Oh my God. So that piqued the interest of then Disney chairman Jeffrey Katzenberg, who kind of saw this as an opportunity to leverage Tim Burton's popularity as a director to go back and do Nightmare Before Christmas. Now, a lot of people don't know that this is not a Tim Burton directed movie. They literally leveraged the name of Tim Burton on the title for that very reason, so that people would think this is a new Tim Burton movie. It is not. It is directed by Henry Selick, and he said in an interview, which I can't remember where it was, but he said the painstakingly slow process of stop motion was just not something that Tim Burton was interested in doing. He liked the story. Obviously, he wrote it. He was very much involved, but Henry Selick's job was to go in and basically, okay, here's my vision. Go make your best Tim Burton movie and put my name on it.
And he nailed
it.
Making a Tim Burton movie.
It's the Burtoniest Burton movie that exists.
It feels like, you know how people are doing those things where like you jokingly like, I gave a bot 100 scripts of Seinfeld. Right. This is what it came up with. And they write something funny and satirical. That's what this feels like. Like I gave this human a bunch of Tim Burton properties and they made a Tim Burton movie out of it.
Yeah, it's very, and especially because Disney, well, first of all, that's another interesting thing. They get the movie, and Disney's like, this is kind of too weird and dark. Well, what did you think? It's the same thing that you said the same thing about 10 years ago.
Yeah, so did you not watch any of the movies that came before it?
Right.
Did you just stop at Pee-wee's Big Adventure?
Edward Scissorhands was a cute, cuddly movie? Like
it's about a boy with scissors for hands.
So this went out under their Touchstone label, which a lot of interesting movies came out on Touchstone.
I love Touchstone.
Touchstone was great. Touchstone was a Touchstone of the 90s.
Yeah. And it had a lot of like the adult stuff where Disney's like, we know we'll make money on it, but let's keep it away from the mouse.
I think even things like I want to say like Armageddon and The Rock were all like Touchstone. So like a lot of like Michael Bay, Jerry Bruckheimer, when those weren't embarrassing, like those were Touchstone. But they, this came out through Touchstone. It was a moderate success. Here's the thing: this didn't have to make Little Mermaid money because it wasn't made for Little Mermaid money. Danny Elfman, he wrote all 11 songs. He said it's one of the easiest jobs he's ever had. Selleck then reflected later, the director, "It's as though Tim Burton laid the egg and I sat on it and hatched it. He wasn't involved in a hands-on way, but his hand is in it. It was my job to make it look like a Tim Burton film."
So is he calling him a deadbeat baby daddy?
Kind of. It's very, like, it's weird that Henry Selick is it Henry or Harry? That's how, like, how much no one gives a crap that he directed this thing, is that everything I see is just Selick. But it's so interesting, like, it must have been weird artistically for them to be like, here's this cool idea. He's like, great. He's like, but it's a Tim Burton movie. It's kind of like how Richard Marquand is the director of Return of the Jedi. But let's not kid ourselves. Yep. George Lucas directed Return of the Jedi or Poltergeist. Like, Tobe Hooper's name's on it, but Spielberg directed Poltergeist. Yep. Or at least that's what people remember. So I want to ask you, what were your thoughts? Do you remember your thoughts the first time you saw this movie?
See, I was just out of, like, I was in that phase where I was like, I like big girl stuff, and big girl stuff isn't cartoons. And so when it came out, I was very like, I don't like it. When is someone going to die? Are they actually dead? Are they just skeletons? Oh, that's cute. Yeah. And so I wound up watching it later. This is going to sound so cliche. When I was working at a video game store and there was a Hot Topic next to us.
Of course.
And then that's when I was like, all right, well, let me see what this thing's all about. And I started watching it and I was like grown and I enjoyed it. Is it the best thing that ever happened to me? No, that's wrestling. But it's fine.
So here's the thing. I actually have this as point number 5, but since you brought it up, I'm skipping all the way to my last point because this might be I know this whole show is subjective, by the way. It's my opinions. But this is like the subjective I'm going to get. One of the big reasons that I don't like this movie at all is because the culture that it has spawned needs to go away. I'm a Disney fan. I like Disney. I unabashedly like Disney. I have Disneyland passes. I go with my wife. Anytime that I see someone with a Jack Skellington tattoo or a Sally t-shirt, I know to stay away from them because it's always some moody teenager that's like, I don't like Disney, but I'm broken like Sally because it's not really Disney, but it's kind of. I'm like, I hate you. I hate everything you are. Get over yourself.
Well, there was a moment where it was like that and Invader Zim was like everything that you saw, I think.
Right.
Also a lot of stripes. So I think just like that combination.
Teenagers love stripes, man.
They just
But not the Bill Murray stripes. What is wrong with them?
Get into stripes, you guys. It's so good.
But where did this...
It's a funny military comedy.
It is really funny. It's one of my favorite Bill Murray movies. I don't understand where this came from because it was a moderate success in 1993, but then it kind of went away. And then all of a sudden in around 2001, 2002, this came back huge. I mean, Disneyland, starting in October, maybe end of September, guts out the Haunted Mansion and puts in all Nightmare Before Christmas stuff for months, and I hate it.
Yeah, I don't know if it's with the rise of DVDs, so you can really see. I mean, no matter what either of us thinks about Nightmare Before Christmas, it's beautiful. Sorry, there it is. I did it. You can cut that out. Just bleep it.
It's going to be like, it's beautiful.
Yeah, that's fine. I'll do it again. No matter what either one of us thinks of this movie, it is beautiful. Like, it's a really, really gorgeous movie.
Sure.
It's great to look at. Stop motion is such a difficult and underrated form of animation. It does. It just looks good. And when you started to be able to see it on better TVs, and not on VHS, you really get to appreciate the detail that goes into making something look like someone else made it and never getting credit for it.
But here's the thing. Like, I feel like, yes, I will concede this is a very beautiful looking movie. But I feel like you give it a free pass. Like people give this a free pass because this thing is super, like, it's a simple concept. It's the Grinch. It's like a macabre version of the Grinch. But it gets so plotty that by the end, it's like, here's the military, here's Oogie Boogie, and then here's Sally, who's also a captive, but she's also psychic. And there's so much. And very, very sad, which is why teenage girls, I'm broken. There's so much going on that I just have to, I have to imagine that when kids watch this, because I've seen kids watch this and just go into giggle fits. Yeah. It's just because it's like, that looks weird and he has a dumb voice, like Oogie Boogie, you know? Like, they don't really know what's happening.
They don't know to spare.
Because there's so much.
But, the Beetlejuice cartoon also did really, really well with kids who I think, the nuances of the movie would have went above their head, but in a cartoon it worked. I
mean, I guess you could say that for a lot of kids' movies, that kids don't, I don't want to give like kids no credit, but a lot of kids, there's a lot of stuff that even I loved as a kid that went over my head, and I'm like, I don't know why I like that. It must have just been something pretty to look at. But I feel like this movie starts and it's like, hey, remember those Rankin Bass things that you loved? We're going to be one of those. And it succeeds on the level of it's so weird and just so like, what? That in that regards, it's a Rankin Bass. I watched this. I've seen this movie maybe 3 times. I still don't quite know like what I'm watching each time. Like I get it enough to.
He's like he's a king, but also a mayor or not a mayor?
He's not the mayor because
he's
the
just a king.
Penguin-y looking thing with 2 faces.
He's a king.
A lot of Batman things like subtly in there. He looks like the Penguin and he has 2 faces.
You know what I wish there would have been more Batman-y stuff of? Prince.
Oh, if Prince had been Jack Skellington, because I feel like Prince was Jack Skellington, like in real life. Like just with hair.
And Sally says Apollonia.
Yeah. That maybe I would have been like, you know what? I'm not into the movie, but the music is on point. Which brings me to another thing. Like this movie to me feels like reheated leftovers of a lot of different things. And I get why like the Burton thing probably, because they were like, just go make a Tim Burton movie. And you're like, all right, I got to throw in the most iconic Burton-iest things. Mm-hmm. But the score and the music is literally like close your eyes and am I playing you the Batman Returns score or am I playing you this, because it's both Elfman and it's like months apart, like just months apart from each other, you know?
I have nothing for that. Like, no, because this movie's a remix. That's what happens when, again, you have someone put up the vision board of what this kind of movie would look like, but it's not the person doing it. It's a photocopy, right? And so rather than, who knows, well, now we know, but who knows if at the time Tim Burton would have innovated and come up with some new Burton-isms. Again, spoiler, he definitely has not. No. But he could have and evolved in the way that people evolve, and it still very much becomes part of their style. But when you have someone and you just say, like, make something like what this person made 2 years ago, then you're just going to get a bunch of, again, it's going to look like a vision board. It's going to look like, okay, well, what do I know about Tim Burton? What do I know about the style? There isn't going to be anything innovative, because innovating is when you then put your own whatever into it, and you can't predict what he would have done. So you can only make what you have an idea that he would have made.
Now, there's another movie directed by Henry Selick, produced by Tim Burton, that is also stop motion, that I feel like is much less of a quote-unquote Tim Burton movie, which is James and the Giant Peach.
Yes.
Which came out, I think, 3 years after this one.
But also, it's an adaptation.
True, right. It's definitely not based off an idea that like Tim Burton had. And I'm sure, again, this was like Tim Burton's James and the Giant Peach just to get you in the door. But that movie feels like...
It was written by someone, that's fine.
I really like that movie.
Yeah, I do too.
I haven't seen it in a minute, but I really like it.
I enjoyed it, and I loved the book when I was a kid.
Yes. The Roald Dahl has some effed up... He did not like adults. He did not like adults.
Yeah.
But that movie to me feels like it has a little personality, whereas this was one of my favorite reviews of Nightmare Before Christmas, which, by the way, 93 or some odd percent on Rotten Tomatoes. This is a really well-liked movie. But my favorite of the review of the movie is by a guy named Owen Gleiberman from Entertainment Weekly. He said, "The Nightmare Before Christmas is a fable in which the spirit of Christmas finally triumphs over that of Halloween. Yet it's clear that Burton's allegiance will always be with the ghouls, not the goody goods. It's any wonder that Nightmare never coalesces because he couldn't make up his mind whether to be naughty or nice." And that's why when people are like, oh, you can watch this in October, November, December, I'm like, it doesn't scratch my Halloween itch. It doesn't scratch my Christmas itch. It's just there.
It's just a weird, but it scratches your sad itch.
I get everyone is so sad. Like,
if you want to be mopey,
unreasonably
it's
sad.
It's like it scratches your seasonal affective disorder itch.
Yeah, if it starts to.
Or I need a sad lamp.
I
itch.
watch this when I have to change the clock an hour and it gets darker earlier. I'm like, oh, because I'm sad. Oh. But like, this is mostly songs. Like, I guess I didn't realize until I rewatched that like a majority of this is like operatic. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I just don't like these songs, man. These songs are just so drawn out.
Really? Which one do you not like the most?
I don't like the "This Is Halloween" one.
Really?
It drags on so long, and the other thing I feel like
they do say "This Is Halloween" like
a lot. I get it. I understand. It's same with like I don't even know what the song is called, but it's when it's towards the beginning of the movie, and it's where the poster is actually from of him like walking down that weird thing,
spirally thing.
Yeah, where he's just like, oh, I'm really sad that Halloween's over. What do I do now? But it goes on for like 5 minutes. I'm like, I get it. Like, move along. This movie's only 76 minutes, and it feels like 4.5 hours to me.
What's the, and I'm going to look it up. What's that Sally song? The song that Sally does?
Sad, Sad Sally, the song?
Yeah, Sad, Sad Sally, the song.
I mean, every time she's just like, I am sad and in a tower, and I love you, Jack. Like,
why aren't you my boyfriend?
I have to turn up the volume every time. Man. I'm like, what is wrong with you?
Sally's song. It's literally, yeah.
It's literally called Sally's song.
It's literally. I was thinking that's what it was, but I was like, it can't be that simple.
So obviously, probably more than any episode I've done so far, like I just don't like this. Help me understand, as someone who like kind of at least passively likes this.
Yeah, I don't hate it.
Yeah, what am I missing? What are people? What is the appeal here?
I think that, for one, it's something I talk about a lot, especially around Halloween. I've been talking about it a lot this Halloween. Teenage girls, young girls, love death and murder.
Why?
And serial killers and bummy outy stuff. Like, they just do. They love Halloween. I don't know. I think I think a theory might be that it's a way to embrace the dark stuff that you can't control by knowing everything about it and being obsessed with it. But I think that's where the popularity came from. And so that's one of those things where it's like, I am hesitant to crap on it too badly, because a lot of times when things are directed to young women, they are seen as being flippant or not as important or whatever. And this is a case where it's like, this is something that's very dark, that is clearly for young girls. And it's just something to connect with when you're in that kind of, all these new hormones, you don't know what to do with them. You hate your parents at that moment. Everything's a bummer. You're reading about your serial killers, and then you're like, oh, well, I don't like Disney, for the girls who didn't like Disney or who do like Disney, and they're like, oh, this is a combination of Disney and, my melancholy, or whatever, or like it was something for the emo girls.
But
that's why it got so big back in the early 2000s, because scene chicks and emo folks and Hot Topic and all that stuff became huge. And so, of course, it became the movie, because it was a way for like a generation of sads to express themselves.
Yeah, this movie definitely appeals to the nobody understands me crowd.
Yes. And also a little bit of the, I like the hot, sad boy, but he don't like me. Yeah,
because you keep saying, like, this is, like, something that a lot of, like, teenage girls might gravitate towards, but I feel like Sally is such a passive character in this. She's
yeah, but that's back before we had more, like, everything was damsel-y back then. There were things that I'm sure there are people who are yelling right now about their favorite characters who were not damsels, and that's one of those, the exception proves the rule. The reason why you remember your Sarah Connors, the reason why you remember all of these characters that you love as being these kick-butt women is because there was a dearth of kick-butt women. And so, yeah, like, a lot of our favorite characters, when you look back, are like, oh, you had no agency. You could have. They didn't make it.
I just feel like and I say this knowing full well, like, this comes sounding like such a film snob. But this movie, there are movies out there that I feel better represent the angst, the unknowing, the I'm broken, no one gets me, on such a deeper level. Whereas I feel like this is one of those movies. This movie to me is like syncing up Dark Side of the Moon to Wizard of Oz. Like, you are trying to mine something
which is
from this,
also
which is not
something
there.
Teenage girls do.
But it's you're mining something from something that's not there. Like, people are giving this movie too much credit. Like, there's nothing deep about Nightmare Before Christmas. There just isn't.
I will also, and this is, I know it's a PG podcast. This is also during the period where if you were an older teenage girl, you were discovering other things you might enjoy. Things that are legal or half legal in most states.
Nocturnal activities?
Not nocturnal activities, but yeah, an activity that might help if you have, if you just want to chill. And eat some snacks.
Weed is legal in California.
It's legal in most places. But it's also like, and I know, like, a lot of people are going to be like,
girls get down to Nightmare Before Christmas? Because
I'm sure that girls get down to Nightmare Before Christmas. Let's not. I have seen /fiction. I have seen fan fiction. Trust me, girls.
Jack, I thought a lot of, like, girls want, like, the muscular buff guy, not the, like, literally a skeleton guy with a big head.
Have you not seen what bands were big in 2002? Bright Eyes didn't come from nowhere, my dude.
I never could be. I was an Oogie Boogie, I guess. I was never going to be in the skeleton range. Oogie Boogie's such a weird character, by the way. Okay, here's something that I saw in my research, and I wanted to ask you how you felt about it, because I really hadn't thought about it in this light. But Danny Elfman was saying that when he was composing the songs for him and when they were coming up with the character, that they were worried that this was going to come off as a racist caricature. Did you ever feel that way about this character, or have you ever even heard anyone speak about it that way?
I have not. It doesn't mean that people have. But also, again, this is not a movie that I'm a huge fangirl of. It is fine. But, Oogie Boogie is really close to, good Google and Moogle or, like, any of the, like, you know what I mean? Like, it is really... Like, I do get it. And it's not like, everyone's a skeleton. So if you want to try to be diverse in your movie, you have to racial code in different ways. And some of those can be really cringy, I guess.
I think Oogie Boogie, to me, is kind of if I had to point to one thing in this movie to be like, that's the problem. That's Oogie Boogie, really cool character design. Anytime he's on screen, it looks awesome. Like, they spent a lot of time on those.
Yeah.
I don't really know who he is as a character. I don't really know what he wants. I'm not really sure why.
He wants to Oogenbug or whatever.
I don't really know why the boogeyman has a gambling problem. Like, there's just so much randomness.
Well, look, in some families, gambling is the boogeyman, sir.
Sure. But
I think it's a way to...
that's like my dad.
Yeah, I think it's a way to code addiction that isn't going to get you in too much trouble, because you can't be like... this is the character that's a raging alcoholic, but you can make a character who, like, maybe likes to do a little bit more betting than they should.
It just seems like this movie knows how spectacular it looks and how, like, imaginative it is, that it gets lost in its own imagination. Like, I feel like what I watched was like a third draft where they're like, let's bring in one new writer who just is going to come kind of clean up the narrative here, because it's just, and I feel like, I know this isn't a Tim Burton movie. I know it's not. However, this movie to me is kind of like what I think of as a symptom of what is wrong with Tim Burton movies now, where it's like no one reins him in, and it's just like, what am I watching anymore? This is just your weird imagination.
And it's funny. It's weird how he's always had that Tim Burton-ness, but now it's almost like there was the movie, again, that's based on his body of work that was not made by him. And now, because that movie was so popular, a lot of his newer bodies of work feel like they're trying to capture the essence of that movie.
Something that he did. It's
very odd.
It's like he's trying to do an impression of someone that did an impression of him.
Yeah.
Which is very bizarre. Like, I kind of feel like that was my takeaway from Alice in Wonderland.
Yes.
There was a lot of stuff I liked in that movie, but there was a lot of it that was like, you're just going crazy, like throwing in things that you expect people to see in a Tim Burton movie now.
Yep.
And I kind of feel like this is where it started, which is so ironic that he didn't direct this movie. Mm-hmm. This movie is just such a strange thing. Now, they talked about doing a sequel for a while, but they wanted to give up doing the stop motion, make it computer graphics, CG, and then Tim Burton put the kibosh on that. I don't know where you would have gone with this story.
Well, I think you go to other towns. Like, there's other, if you go when he goes up to the door, Jack Coddington or whatever, there are different holiday towns. So you just show what that would look like. Essentially, you make the same movie, but you make one for every day of the week.
I guess, but I feel like Tim Burton is just chased making this movie. Like, I almost wonder if he regrets not doing it himself, because it's like, think of The Corpse Bride, think of Frankenweenie. It's like, how many times are you going to try to like recapture this thing that you didn't do?
I think at night, if I had to hazard a guess, I think that ultimately it's one of those things where it's like, well, it's got my name on it, so it must be mine. So he just probably claims ownership of it, even though rationally he realizes he doesn't.
Right.
But I think at night, I think that imposter syndrome comes in, man.
I like to think that at night, Tim Burton's like in Batman Returns, just sitting in a dark room in a chair, and a Jack Skellington bat signal pops up, and he just stands up in the light, like, it's time to be Burton. This movie needs Burton.
This movie needs more Burtoning.
Again,
Burton
though,
the movie.
This movie, the other thing that's kind of interesting about it, and I guess you could call this hypocrisy, maybe not, but like we touched on earlier, this was a touchstone release. Disney has leaned into this, and they have taken this back. They're like, oh no, this is Disney. Mm-hmm. Like, you can't walk anywhere in Disneyland right now without Nightmare Before Christmas.
Because it sells.
Anything.
You know that there is a part of the Disney folks who are like, how did we let this property become the thing that started, it didn't start them, but, Hot Topic is making so much money. And they make so much money off of the Disney stuff anyway, and so does their plus-size sister store, Torrid. But, Disney sees that and just thinks of, they're getting some money on licensing, but what if they were the only ones? What if you can only get that stuff in the Disney store? Oh. What if you had to buy directly from them,
They also now they do, and this is how I saw it initially. Mm-hmm. They re-release it for a couple of weeks in theaters every year.
Yep. I'm surprised no one's Rocky Horrored it. I bet someone has.
But I feel like there's nothing iconic to latch on to you're not going to throw a candy cane at the screen.
No, but you might act as if you are the characters in front of it. Yeah, because really you love them and you want to be that skinny man and that weird doll girl.
No one wants that.
They do. Some people think it's terribly romantic. I think you should work on what you think of romance, because I think that leaves you destined to fail and be weird and codependent. But it's
also like he has, at least for a majority of the movie, no interest in her whatsoever.
No.
Like, he is 100% preoccupied with stealing another holiday, which it's the Grinch. It is a much more confusing version of the Grinch, but he has no feelings towards her at all. That's the other thing. That's why I say, there are other movies that teenage girls can latch onto. It's like, what are you getting out of this? Because I'm not sure that's the message that you need to hear right now.
Yeah.
It's like, when the guy has time for you, he'll come and rescue you.
None of the fairy tales, until Frozen, none of them were, because Frozen is great because it's the hoes before bros of Disney movies, where it's like, yeah, embrace your sisterhood, #Girl Squad. But before that, no fairy tale movie has ever been great for girls.
That's true. I mean,
one chick gave up her entire life, her whole family, and her voice, which was the most important thing for her. So what? So she could like hang out with some prince?
Isn't it funny
that she don't even know?
That's the one that started the Disney Renaissance, though. That's the one, and it's like.
And I love Little Mermaid.
And then right afterwards was Beauty and the Beast, which of course,
obviously,
is Stockholm Syndrome.
Yeah,
like it is very bizarre that's what people were like. All right, Disney's back to form now.
Yeah, like Mulan has a great message about empower, and some of the later ones do, but like. Yeah, no, most fairy tale things for ladies, not great. Also, most romantic comedies until very recently, which have been geared towards women, but we all know that everyone likes romantic comedies, all genders. Also, not great for ladies. It's a lot of us sacrificing a lot of stuff, and then a dude sacrifices one thing, and we're like, it's love.
I'm trying to think. My favorite, shamefully, rom-com is... the one with Matthew Perry and Salma Hayek. Fools Rush In.
Fools Rush In, yeah.
I love Fools Rush In. I'm like, is he terrible in that? Probably.
They are all terrible in it.
That is a really funny movie, by the way.
Really funny movie. I like it.
Yeah, so...
Had that great UB40?
UB40.
Oops Fords.
Oh, yeah. I forgot they did that. They remade that song.
They did.
I actually grew up thinking that was the original. And I was like, why is this old man doing this version of this song? It doesn't belong to you. Just like I thought the same thing about Bright Sunshiny Day when Cool Runnings came out.
No!
I thought that was the original version. It's like, why is there this old man doing this song? Anyways, Nightmare Before Christmas. I think this movie is, look, I crapped on this for a long time, but I do have to concede that every frame of this movie could be a painting.
Yes, absolutely.
The craftsmanship,
and that is a huge part of the popularity of that movie. It is beautiful to look at.
Yeah, it's hard to like take this movie and just be like, don't watch it, because I could mute this movie and probably get like some level of enjoyment out of just like the craftsmanship is just something that like I know Leica Studios still does like Coraline and Paranorman still does stuff like this, but people just don't go see it like they should.
No,
and I feel like these types of movies are gonna probably sadly go away pretty soon.
Yeah, I know. Weirdly enough, I am friends with a lot of puppeteers now.
That actually sounds on brand for you. So
LA is weird, man. But like one of my buds, she is like, she does a lot of puppeteering and she works for Henson, but she also does stop motion because it's what she loves to do. And she built herself a stop motion studio in her house.
Right.
But yeah, it's hard and no one cares. And so she makes these things for herself, and that's what she's good at. And that's what she would love to do. But no one's hiring for people to do that.
Yeah. I have a 6-year-old niece. And I remember trying to play this for her, and she wasn't interested in it either. And I just wonder if, like, this is just an art form that doesn't speak to, like, kids of the day.
She doesn't know pain yet, dude.
Wait till she's 12.
Introduce her to the episode of Sesame Street where Mr. Hooper dies, and then take her to Nightmare Before Christmas. You did it the wrong way around. She got to lose a pet.
I don't know why this just popped in my head, but I was like, sad things to show children. Also, Punky Brewster, the episode with the Challenger, where she comes home and she's like, the teacher's dead.
The teacher's dead. I wanted to be an astronaut.
So I feel like there's going to be like 3 or 4 things I'm going to have to show my niece to get her really sad, and then show her this and be like, Sally's broken too, just like I broke you.
Look, sometimes there's beauty in pain.
And then my sister will be like, you're not allowed to babysit anymore.
What did you do to my child? Why does she only wear black?
Like, I appreciate this movie on that level. I do. I guess my like big takeaway is like, yeah, maybe I'm just talking to people who I have no nostalgia for this movie. That's one thing. I feel like there's a handful of movies.
What age did you see this at?
I mean, I saw it in 2007, so that I would have been like 22,
Yes,
23.
you have nothing for it because you weren't of the age to form those bonds.
Yeah, I was like, man, I should see this movie because everyone loves it so much, and it's in theaters. And I was like, good God, this is boring.
Or some might say, good googly moogly.
Good googly moogly, it was boring. But I just walked out. And then I was just like, I hated this. And I was like, what's this? What's this? I just did that for like 10 10 minutes, just pointing at everything.
What's this? A movie I don't like.
It was billed as like the coming back to the screens one more time, and now I realize they do it every year.
They do it every
It's
year.
not really that special.
Because it makes money.
This movie
and I bet, you know what? I bet that this movie, I don't know how many times they've remastered it. If they haven't remastered it and put that SOB up on an IMAX screen, they are dumb.
Yeah, I mean, it's gonna look... I wonder at what point do you just literally see like just the little iterations of movement because it's just so like 4K, you know?
I don't know. It's pretty good.
It is pretty good.
It's pretty good. It's pretty well done. I would love to find out though. Like at what point can you not show this on something high def because you can see?
I mean,
I'd love to find out.
There are some things that have made their way to high definition that it's like I can see why you probably didn't want that. Like Star Trek the original series.
Why? Why would you? Why?
They had
You can see like the ropes and stuff in the regular, like on the bad TVs that I had when I was growing up. Like my floor model, I could see the cracks in that show.
I mean, you can literally see like zippers and.
That's like putting the old Doctor Who's on. Why would you do that to yourself?
I don't know, man. It's also like when I realize this is a tangent, but I have to say this. My wife really loves Friends. I bought her the Friends Blu-rays.
Oh no!
And they
because makeup was done for different things.
First of all, they framed that terribly because there's just no way to make that look good. So it's like oddly squished and yet super open on the sides. So I feel like Ross's head barely clears the frame, but I can see every square inch of Monica's apartment.
Yeah, you can see the couch behind him, but then just one eyeball.
And oh lordy, those first 2 seasons, oh man.
Well, because it's also the makeup. Like makeup was done differently for standard TV because you couldn't see stuff. So you had to lay it on heavy and you had to like do a lot more heavy contouring and stuff.
I mean, Phoebe looks like Madonna in some of those early episodes. Like just like pounds of it on her. So what happens with Nightmare Before Christmas? This will come to 4K eventually. It will happen because Disney's not going to let this go. Last question I have for you. We brought this up a little bit earlier, but I want your definitive version. Is this a Halloween movie? Is it a Christmas movie? When is the optimal time if you have to watch this to watch this?
After a breakup. And that can happen any season.
Fair enough.
But it's a Halloween movie. It's a Halloween
movie because my wife loves this movie. She absolutely loves this movie.
Literally, I mean, this is Halloween. Like, it's a Halloween movie.
But then it wants to double dip. It wants to
No,
double
you don't
dip
get to double dip, my
No,
dude.
you get one showing. You're either a not so great Halloween movie or a not so great Christmas movie. You can't be like.
Yeah, you don't get to be both, my dude.
Also, why don't they make Thanksgiving movies? I can think of like one, like Planes, Trains, and Automobiles.
I mean, if you stretch, maybe Addams Family too. I've definitely watched it on Thanksgiving just for the
Sure. Like
We Will Not Break Bread with You, like if just for that.
Funny People has a Thanksgiving scene in it, I guess.
Yeah, I feel like, you know why? Because all of the themes that you can mine for Thanksgiving, which is really the theme of I have to be around these people I'm related to that I hate.
Right.
You can do with Christmas, which also has more iconic imagery.
Can we just agree that Thanksgiving is a dress rehearsal without presents for Christmas?
Yeah, but less stress.
And
I find
just like this movie is a dress rehearsal for every Tim Burton movie you're gonna get subsequently. It's funny because I wanted to do this with you because I thought you really liked it, but it seems like
I like it. I just don't like. I don't hate it. It's fine. It's a good movie, but it's not one of those movies where I'm like. It doesn't make me, it doesn't make me feel the way Breaking 2 Electric Boogaloo makes me feel. It doesn't make me feel the way The Last Dragon makes me feel. Like, it doesn't make me feel the way that Batman and Robin or Batman Forever or Batman Returns makes me feel.
Batman Returns is a masterpiece. And
it's actually a legitimately good movie. It's not on my list of bad movies. It is
right. And this just seems like the underwhelming, like literally Penguin's little ducky cart is in this movie.
Yeah.
as like one of the killer toys. Like that's what I said. Like,
and they'll call it an Easter egg, but
yeah,
Daddy,
it's like
that's not an Easter egg.
No. That is like, what's a Tim Burton thing I can throw in this? Oh, the duck thing was weird. I'll put that in there. Yeah, I don't think this is a good movie. I think you can have something that looks really pretty, but there's no substance to it. I think that's what this is.
Yeah, that's what Instagram is. It's fine.
Yeah,
it's the Instagram of stop motion.
Of dark feelings. Look, if you're listening to this and you love this movie, see a therapist. Thank you so much, Danielle, for joining me. Still to come, I got Dan Merle's going to be doing Lost World Jurassic Park with me. Rob Cornett, we're going to be talking Office. A lot of other stuff. Thank you so much for listening. Rate, review, please, because then people see it. Have a good one.
Bye.